Welcome back to Hope Wednesday. I am Elisa Flakes, your psychoeducational facilitator, where we combine faith and mental health. I'm so excited about this month because this month is celebrating women and celebrating mothers. So we are going to be looking at one of the most important relationships on the earth. I don't know if you've heard it before, but there's a saying, and it says, "The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world." And what that means is that a mother's impact is so important, and it is so lasting, and it shapes the character and the characteristic of humanity. So it is important that we look at how do we interact with our mothers and what's going on with our mothers. Again, this is a psychoeducational platform. It is not therapy. We're just starting the conversation. And hopefully, after you hear this message, you'll be inclined to dig deeper and maybe even get some help. And my prayer for you today is that God would meet us here, because there is so much happening in our world, and it can be traced back to our relationship with our caregiver, our mothers. Some of us had aunts as mothers. Some of us had grandmothers as mothers. Some of us had sisters as mothers. Some of us had friends as mothers, caregivers, adoptees, whomever played that role. It is a significant role. But particularly today, we're going to be looking at the mother wound. And so I ask God to join us, because we all need healing. This is a broken and fallen world. No one's perfect. So we're not demonizing mothers, but we're trying to peer into their experience and our experience, and so that we can heal and thrive. Thriving in our relationship with our mother, that is the bedrock of our mental health. Right after God, it's our mother, because we were in our mother's womb. She nourished us, she nurtured us, and what we did not get, our deficits, are the result of our relationship with our mother. That is our first trust relationship. So it's really big. It's a big deal, you all. It's significant. It's so significant that even in psychology, we see when there's someone who is psychotic, say Norman Bates, and it showed the dynamics of his relationship with his mother. When we have serial killers, and when we have rapists, and we have men who beat their wives, there's so much connected to their relationship with their mother. God gave this role, and he intended for it to be a blessing. But sometimes it is not a blessing. And sometimes there's wounds. And usually, well, I would say this, not even usually, broken people hurt people. You know, they say hurt people hurt people. So there is a deficit. So let's hop into it. The mother wound. I don't know if you've heard it a lot, but it's kind of a catchy phrase, and it is used to describe the relationship with your mother and how it impacts you. The mother wound is the emotional pain and resulting patterns of dysfunction that can be passed down through generations in the relationships between the mother and the daughter. I would also say to the sons, but okay, we'll just focus on, just getting out what it is. And sons, if you can glean into this, because it does affect how you love a woman. It does affect how she is the first woman that you'll ever love. She is the first woman that you'll ever trust. And if that is broken, there is a result of that. So let's dive in. So listen through both ears, males and females. And we want to be able to help one another. So what does it look like to have a mother's wound? We already described what it is. Now we want to know what it looks like. What does it look like? How will I know if I have a mother wound? Or what's wrong with me? Well, it could be a lot of things, but as it pertains to mothering and the mother wound, it looks like a person who has low self-esteem and low self-worth. Remember how someone cares for you, and we talked about this last month in self-care. How someone cares for you relays value to you. So if they're attentive to your cry, if they're attentive to your needs, that conveys the message that you are valuable and that you are important and your cry matters. Just this morning, I was singing a song, Jesus, I love you because you cared. And I had a little dialogue with my husband, and he was trying to understand the dynamics of that song. And I said, that is the epitome of our human experience. Care, right? We want to know who cares. Even the disciples, when they were on the boat with Jesus and the storm came, they said, Master, Master, carest not that we perish. The reason why we want to know if someone cares is because value and worth is associated with care. So when we feel like no one cares, we feel like ultimately we're not valuable. So when someone responds to our needs, takes care of us, is respectful to us as children and as babies, and they are loving to us, and we feel the love, that conveys self-worth and value. And as human beings, we need to feel connected, and we need to feel like we are valuable and that we matter and that we have purpose and that we are safe. Because if you are valuable, you are safe. We're all seeking safety, and we're going to get into that, but we're all seeking safety. And then if you are someone who has a mother wound, you probably lack boundaries. You probably don't respect, how people should love you, or even how you love people, because you were never taught that you were respected and that you could say no, and that your needs matter. What you want in life matters. Where you want to go matters. How you want to do things matter. So you're just usually boundaryless. People can usually just run over you, and you don't know how to stick up for yourself because there's no self to be connected to, and there's no self to value. So that's really important to know. If you lack boundaries, if people are abusing you and running over you, it is most likely because you have a mother wound, and your mother didn't teach you that you were valuable. You should not be taken advantage of. Men should not exploit you sexually, and you should not be in relationships that don't honor you. You learn honor from your first relationship with your mom, but if that's not there, you don't know how to take care of yourself. You didn't see that happen for you in your life, so you lack boundaries. And then there's difficulty expressing your feelings, right? Because you have not got your needs met, so you learn to be silenced. You learn to suffer in silence. When a baby cries and no one responds to that baby learns to self-soothe. And it also teaches the baby that you can't depend on other people. There's no one coming to your rescue, so there's no need to cry. There's no need to express yourself. Or in some cases, you may have expressed yourself, and your mom may have gotten angry. You're selfish, you're spoiled, shut up. Just your emotions were met with so much resistance and so much condemnation that you felt that my feelings are bad. So you learn to silence yourself, and you have a very difficult time asking for what you need, expressing what hurts, and just saying what's going on with you, because you haven't explored your emotions. You've had to stuff them to survive, because we'll go back to the top, because you've felt like no one cares. No one cares. So if you don't set boundaries, you can't set expectations to protect yourself. So you're in a vicious cycle of continuously being hurt. And then part of the emotional pain resulting from the mother wound and some of the dysfunction that is passed down is perfectionism and overachieving. And that comes because you want to prove, I have worth, I have value. So I'm going to take 500 jobs and I'm going to show the world that I am a valuable person. I'm going to show everyone why I should be loved, why I am important. I need self-esteem because I don't have it. So I'm going to keep chasing the degree, keep chasing the promotion, keep chasing the looks, and keep chasing the diet so I can be a perfect size and keep presenting well. My house has to be model status so that I can show value. I have to have the designer stuff so that I can show value, because remember, value shows worth and care. And it also means I'm connected and someone's going to love me and I'm safe. We're all seeking safety. I'm going to keep throwing that at you, because at the foundation of this wound is a lack of feeling safe, a lack of feeling secure. So you overachieve, you're perfect, you're hard on yourself, which is counterproductive to your self-worth, because perfection does not exist. Perfection is a mythical place, and it does not exist. God is perfection. I take that back. Perfection is God, and that is God in heaven. But here on earth, we will never have the capacity to be perfect. It is just going to be a continuous effort where you will never meet that goal, because we were made to be loved just the way we are. The Bible tells us that while we were yet in our sins, Christ died for us. So we don't have to strive with perfectionism to be loved. But the mother wound will make you feel like, if I'm good enough, if I get the degree, if I do this, then my mom will see me, and then my mom will think that I'm good enough, and then I'll get the love, and then I'll feel valued, and then I'll feel safe, and then I'll feel connected. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. The mother wound and the attachment style, I wanted to go over that a little bit with you all, because it affects how we attach to other people. It is our first experience, like I stated. And so it teaches us how to connect to other people, how to connect to friends, how to connect to opposite sex romantic relationships. And it puts us in a disposition to where either we're anxious in our attachment style, where we're insecure and we're anxious, or, we're clingy. That's the word for that. We're clingy and we're obsessive. The 20 texts, YWD, and where are you at? And what are you doing? And that obsessiveness that people have. Yes, sometimes it's stalky and for control, but sometimes it comes from the mother wound because you don't feel secure. You haven't felt secure in your most prominent relationship, which is your relationship with your mother. So now you get in relationships and you want to know, am I connected? Am I safe? And you're so hypersensitive to any indication that would make you feel like you're being abandoned. Any implication that makes you feel that you are being neglected, any implication that makes you feel that you're not valuable or that you are not being considered, it triggers you, which means it causes that emotional reenactment of being lonely and feeling disconnected. And so you react. And how do you react? You could either react in anger, or you can react with more anxiousness and more control to try to get back into that space of connection. It's all about connection. We came to earth with our mom, connected to her umbilical cord. We share nutrients. So there is a dependency on our mom that we have that's very unique. And for the first years of life, the mother and the child have a symbiotic connection, and they co-regulate, meaning that the mom emotionally regulates the child. If the mom is anxious, the child will be anxious. If the mom is relaxed, the child will be relaxed. So there is a dependency on the mom for moods. But what happens when we are in a situation where we didn't get our needs met? We are stunted. We have arrested development. And so we're still trying to get that connection that we didn't get. So we find ourselves the clingy friend. We find ourselves the overbearing friend and the controlling friend, or the friend who needs a lot of attention, or the friend who needs a lot of security, or the friend that may be envious when you step out with other friends. And that comes from a place of the mother wound. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, because God made us to be connected. Sin separates us, but God and our weaknesses separate us, but God meant for us to feel safety and security and connection. And then there's the avoidant. If you're someone out there and you just refuse to trust people because it's been your experience that I couldn't even trust my mom or my caregiver. So I don't really do people because I don't want to be hurt. So one way to protect myself is to just not get connected, to just not be really close to people, just handle people at a distance, don't get intimate. Don't tell them who I really am. Just kind of show them a little bit of the surface, but don't let anyone near my heart, the intimacy of who I am. So I avoid close relationships. I may have lots of friends and I may not even be personal with any of them because I don't want to get too close. I don't want to feel disappointment. I don't want to try to connect and then be rejected. And that happens, and you get in relationships where people can't commit. It goes back to the mother wound because they're afraid to trust. And then there's this disorganized attachment where it's in the middle, where you really want the connection and you send people the messages that you want the connection, that you want to be the friend, you want to be the mate. But then when intimacy rolls in and you have to express your needs, you can't express your needs because you've learned that your needs will not get met. And verbalizing them will only make you sadder because then the person knows what you need and they still refuse to care and to meet your needs. So that disorganized is kind of like the bipolar of attachment. You're clingy, you're running towards a person, and then when the person runs back towards you, you're just like, I need space, I need time, or you ghost them, or you break up with them, or you kind of go off in another direction because it's too close and you're not comfortable, with trusting. It is a trust issue. There's difficulty in trusting others because you fear abandonment. That is a real fear. That is a real fear, abandonment. No one wants to feel left and disconnected. And so people live with the pain of being disconnected and not having the courage or the healing. They haven't been healed, so they cannot take the steps toward securing a healthy relationship. It's the deep bonding is so disrupted. If you can't bond with other people, you have to check because it's stemming from your mother wound and not feeling really connected with your mom. And when you look at your relationship with other people, I want you to look at your relationship with your mom because it stems from that. Every relationship, that's the foundation. It stems from it. You overcompensate. You probably work real hard in relationships because you're trying to heal a disrupted mother connection. Your identity and your self-worth, it struggles. We talked about that, and this is a little more in detail. Low self-esteem from constant criticism or conditional love. Some mothers will love you, but it's conditional. It's transactional. Is if you get A's, if you listen to me, if you do whatever I say, if you come and shower me as mommy dearest, then I will give you some positive feedback. And on the other hand, there's the constant criticism. You make a mistake. Children make mistakes. We make mistakes. But when you're met with a mother who points out your mistakes and who berates you for your growing up as you make mistakes, you begin to have that critical voice in your head. And even if she's not there, it's that voice is still in her head, in your head, and you represent her to the way you talk to yourself. I'm stupid. I'm dumb. Nobody wants to be with me. Oh, I shouldn't have did that. I'm not worth it. I'm not, all of those things, you begin to project your mother's negative treatment and your mother's negative voice onto yourself. And so that becomes your voice. You reinforce that. And now you're causing self-harm and it just destroys your self-esteem. You are not a cheerleader. You're critical. And so what happens when you're critical is you no longer notice the positive things you do because your eye is only set to identify the negative things. And that's the danger in child rearing. If you only give your child attention for the negative things and not the good things, they will start to pay attention only to the negative things. So, and then there's the imposter syndrome, rooted in lack of affirmation, because you don't feel confident. You may have gotten a degree, you may have a talent or a skill, you may sing or you may decorate or you may be a professional, a career professional, and you may really be good at it, and everyone sings your praises, and your status is appropriate to your capabilities. Everything is saying that you are sufficient. But in your mind, because you're dealing with that critical voice, and because the being detached and not feeling worth it and low self-esteem and all of those things, you feel like an imposter. You feel like you are, if everyone really knew who you were, they wouldn't accept you and like you, because you're still afraid of not being connected and accepted. So you feel like an imposter, and there is a dissonance. There's a cognitive dissonance going on between what everyone is saying about you, what your own work is saying about you, what your own gift is saying about you, and what your critical voice is saying about you. And guess what? You're more likely to believe your critical voice because it's the fear voice. You don't want it to be true. So we're more likely to bend toward the things we're afraid of, right? So that's important to notice. Do I have imposter syndrome? Then there's this chronic guilt or self-blame for unmet maternal expectations. If you are a mother, or if even your mother didn't treat you well, let me say it like this. Children are very egotistic, and it is not in a negative way. It's in a way that they can't identify others as well as they can identify their own experience. So they don't have the ability to differentiate between this is your fault, this is my fault. They somehow believe that everything is the result of them, or everything is their fault. So when your mother has not loved you, or your caregiver has not loved you as a child, you interpret that to mean I'm not worthy. You interpret that to mean I'm bad. You interpret that to mean I'm ugly, I'm not good enough. You personalize it. You internalize the treatment, and then you process it to mean I'm not good enough. So now how you've been treated is the mirror of how you see yourself. When you feel bad, you think that you're bad. When you feel like you're not worthy, you think that you're not worthy. You find the rationale for it and you endorse that. So when you endorse that, there's chronic guilt or self-blame. You know, you tell yourself, my mother doesn't like me because I make mistakes, or because I don't listen to her, or because I'm not as smart or as pretty, or there's something missing in me why she doesn't love me. The deficit is in me. It's not in her. Because children, I say this often, blame themselves because a saying that children would rather live in a world ruled by God than in a world ruled by Satan. What that means is they'd rather see their parents as God than to see their parents as Satan, because that's much scarier. And so they're safer if the mom is God and they're bad, rather than if their mom is Satan. That's a little more hard to conceptualize, based on how the ego is and based on the fear that I need to believe that my mother is a good person. Because if I believe my mother's a good person, then I believe there's hope for me to get a relationship with her. There's hope for me to get love from her one day. But to accept who she is, and she's not a devil. Our mothers have demons, but they're not devils. They do have deficiencies. So I'm not saying that. I'm a mother too, and I have deficiencies. But what I'm saying is that those deficiencies are how the child won't see the mom. They rather see their own deficiency. They rather take the lack and the blame onto themselves. All right, so emotionally dysregulation. You know, some people, they act it out. They're just angry and irritable, but they don't have the emotional language to state what's going on with them. And when you don't have the emotional language to state what's going on with you, you can't help yourself, and the people around you can't help you. So you're always frustrated, and you feel like, can't they see me? I'm sad. Can't they see me? I'm anxious. Can't they see me? I'm traumatized. Can't they see me? Well, no, they see your behavior, but it behooves you. Well, it benefits you. Let me say that. It benefits you to express your emotions to yourself, and we're going to get into that. and then gain the strength and the courage to set boundaries that communicate your emotional needs. Because suppressed emotional needs are due to feeling unsafe. You were invalidated. Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You had a good childhood. Or, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. I was great to you. I did this or that, you know. And then there's also the gaslighting, where your emotional experience is that never happened. That you were just a horrible child. That never happened. You know, when you're responding to what's going on, it's misclassified, and it is, you don't get to have your experience. You don't get to have your experience. You are seen as the crazy one, the black sheep. You are seen as the trouble starter, the funny acting, dramatic, all of those negativities, always complaining. You're too much, because that's gaslighting. It's saying that you didn't really experience the pain, excuse me, or the mistreatment. You're just a lot to deal with. It's because something's wrong with you. And so you learn to shut down and not even express your emotions. It causes you also to be hypervigilant. Hypervigilant just means you're constantly anticipating rejection or something happening to you and harm coming your way. And with that, that's what I said about the anxious attachment, how you're just always, looking for the rug to be pulled up from under you. You're expecting betrayal. You're expecting the boyfriend to leave. You're expecting the friend to betray you. You're expecting all of these negative things because that's been your experience. You expect your experience. You expect the repeating of your experience, which is a trauma response. It's like you don't want it to happen, but for some people, they feel like, well, if I expect it, I can brace myself for it. Like a wave, like I see the wave coming, so I can brace myself for it. And they don't want to be just overtaken. So what they do is they're just hyper vigilant. And if you look for something, you will find it. If you look for someone to leave you out, or you look for all these little things, you're so hyper vigilant, you're going to find something because that's what you're looking for. It doesn't mean it's really happening, but if you look for something, you will find it. And you're constantly sensitive to rejection. And sometimes it's not even rejection. It's, oh, we just forgot to invite you. Oh, we just wanted to go this time because we had something to talk about. Or, oh, I owed her a birthday dinner, so that's why we were out. Or, oh, my husband has to work. He's trying to save money to work overtime or whatever. But you personalize everything as rejection or harm towards you. And then there's people pleasing. When you have the mother wound, like I know that it may sound like I'm repeating, but I want to go a little bit more into it with the people pleasing. Sometimes people feel like they're just nice, they're just givers. But underneath that people pleasing, many times is a desire to feel connected. And you've learned that as long as I'm doing for people, people will stay connected to me. So your value and your worth in the relationship is taking care of people. Your value and your worth in the relationship is supplying emotionally for the person, being the emotional caretaker, being the financial caretaker, being whatever the person needs you to be, just so that you can be needed and so that they can assess you as valuable. So you go about and you people please, because you've learned that when people aren't happy with you, they disconnect and they cut you off. So your role as a result of the mother wound is always trying to please. And that's not anything to be ashamed of. If you are a people pleaser and you feel incredible shame about that, I want to release you. And I want to tell you that that is a survival mechanism. You learn that you can get your needs met through people pleasing and doing what people want you to do. Now that you know that, you get to stop. You get to turn it around and accept the love of God and take care of yourself and look for reciprocal relationships where someone is giving to you and you are giving to them. But you have to know that that people pleasing or being perfect, it's a survival mechanism where you feel like if I let someone down, if I don't go here with this person, if I don't lend them this money, if I don't babysit, if I don't show up to their event, if I don't push like or comment on their section, then they're going to reject me. Living in that level of fear is just exhausting, and it's terrible for your mental health. And it just reinforces that you're in danger of not being loved. And it doesn't allow you to love yourself because you become this person in order to be in other people's lives. And so it doesn't serve you. It's a survival mechanism that you don't need, but that you develop. And then with the boundaries, what that looks like is the enmeshment. When you have the mother moon and you're anxious and you're always trying to be connected to people, your emotional role is reversal. It's an emotional role reversal where the child feels responsible for the mother. Oh my goodness. As a therapist, I can't tell you how many times I've experienced this, and even in my personal life where I've observed it, where the parent or the mother makes you responsible for her emotions. The roles are reversed. You are the emotional caretaker. You are the financial caretaker. You are, in some cases, I understand when they get old that you may have to be, but even physically, it is your responsibility to take care of the parent. And in the African American community, I've seen parents begrudgingly raise their children for 18 years and then demand that their children honor them for the rest of their lives here on earth. And they will surely tell you, because I'm your mother. And society will come along and say, well, you only have one mother. And that guilt, you're guilted into a continuous role of taking care of your mother, a mother who has never taken care of you. That is so psychologically damaging. I have so many clients who have to walk in that role. And as a child, they really love their mother, but they're triggered by caring for their mother because their mother never cared for them. They're triggered by listening to their mother's problems because their mother never listened to them. They're triggered by financially being responsible for their mother because that's not how the mother has given to them. So it's a re-injury. It's a traumatic re-injury when you are put in a position to be your mother's mother. And most people will take that role because you want to be connected so bad that any role will be sufficient as long as there's a possibility of being connected. And that what that does is it just reinforces the fact that you don't have support and you don't have a mother. So it is a vicious cycle, but the endeavor or the hope is that something will click and I'll get the love as a daughter or a son that I need by me being my mother's mother or, taking care of my mom. And then there's a fear or guilt when asserting independence or living differently. No one pours it on. I can only talk about us. I don't know about other communities, but for African Americans, no one pours it on like us. And I said a little bit of it. I carried you for 9 months and I took care of you and I paid for your modeling, your cheer. I did all this for you and you can't do this for me. There's an insurmountable amount of guilt that is laid upon you when you try to set boundaries or when you try to be in a position where you're taking care of yourself. You realize that you're an adult and no one's supposed to take care of you. So you start to take care of yourself. And then you become attacked because now you're selfish and now you don't care about your mom. And now you are betraying your mom because you are choosing yourself. That's enmeshment. Difficulty saying no due to deeply ingrained guilt or obligation. You just feel so bad because whatever reason, her story, she's sick, she's single, whatever it is. But all the things you do is out of guilt and not out of love. That's a sign that you are operating in boundary confusion, and it's a psychological aspect of the mother wound. And then there are repetition of patterns. We talked about it. Every relationship looks like the relationship you have with your mother. Not every, because in contrast, you could set out to not, you're just adamant that you'll, it's almost like narcissism, because now you won't take care of anybody. Now you have to be the center of attention. Now you have to be the one who someone is, doing flips to be in your life, but that's still a result of your relationship with your mom. And so, what happens when it's time to select friends or a partner? Because you're so used to chasing that pattern, it happens again. Just like you're pleasing your mom, chasing your mom, and doing all these things, now you're going to get friends where you have to chase. You are attracted to unavailable partners or friend. You are attracted to critical partners or critical friends. You unintentionally repeat parenting styles with your own children. Your mom didn't take care of you, so now you don't really take care of your children because that's normal. That's that children are a headache and a burden and these kids get on my nerves flavor of parenting. Or you don't do Christmas, or you don't do Thanksgiving, or you don't do, you're not intimate, you're not emotional, you're not physical with your child. And that could be because that's what you experienced with your own mother. It impacts how you mother. Mother wounds are multi-generationally passed down. And it's important for us to know that. And one important thing about how it's passed down through generations is that epigenetics. Epigenetics is stating that our environment, it affects how our DNA is expressed. So if I'm stressed out, then and my eggs, my daughter, when she was in me, I'll use my girls, when they were in me, if I was stressed out, now they're stressed out. The cortisol markers are high and they have a higher proclivity of stress, inflammation, cortisol, anxiety, or depression. Whatever I dealt with, it turns on the DNA marker for emotional expression. So some of the things that people are dealing with, it didn't start with you. The anxiety, the low self-esteem, the fear, the abandonment, the perversion even, I'll go there. It didn't start with you. How you feel, all of these feelings can be expressed in our DNA, and it turns on different markers. And so we feel like, I don't know why I feel like this. It could have been the way your mom felt when she carried you, even down to my grandchildren. When I carried my daughters, their eggs were developed, they say, within them, right? All the eggs that they would have. So I was making an impact not only on my daughter, but on my granddaughters. So these things are multi-generational. And so it's important to know that wounds start early. And it's not because the mom says, pick me. I want to cause mother wounds. That's not what happens. Usually there's something that happens within the womb or in the life experience that causes a deficit. And then the mother from the deficit. Your deficit is your mom's deficit. What you need is what she doesn't have. So it's her deficit too. We mother from our deficits. And sometimes we overcompensate and we try to give our kids what we didn't have. But in many times, as it pertains to wounds, our deficits become our children's deficit. They parent from their deficit. So while you're saying, I didn't get this, well, you have to remember your mom didn't either. She didn't either. So it is just a multi-generational pattern that is repeated. And then it causes you to struggle. We talked about it last month with self-love. You wonder why you're struggling to nurture yourself in ways that you need to, because it wasn't modeled in childhood. You didn't feel deserving. You didn't feel that you were valuable. No one takes care of something that's not valuable. People throw paper, pennies, and trash away. They don't harbor trash. If you feel like trash, if you've been treated like trash, there's no way you're going to polish trash and take care of it and fold it up and put it nicely. You're going to put it in the trash can. So that is one indication. If you're struggling to nurture yourself, it wasn't modeled in childhood. And then there is the clinical considerations. We're at the part of clinical considerations because it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? You've described me. You've pointed out that I have a mother wound. What do I do with this mother wound? Well, the beautiful thing is that we're having the discussion because it all begins with awareness. And sometimes we don't know why there's conflict with us and our mother. Sometimes we don't know why we get anxious when the phone rings and it's her. Sometimes we don't know why we're struggling. We love her, but we don't want to be with her, or we're angry at her, but we don't feel like we have a right to be. We don't know what to do with those emotions. Hopefully this has helped you to get a view of the mother wound, how it starts, and also to have some empathy for your mom. Have some empathy because your mother is living out her experiences. I'm not excusing abuse. I'm not excusing neglect. I'm not excusing it. I'm giving you the reason because that's going to be part of your healing. If you don't get another reason, you're going to constantly think she doesn't love me because of me. She doesn't love me because she doesn't like me. She doesn't love me because I'm not good enough or smart enough. When a mother doesn't like her child, she does not like herself. So when that is the case, she does not like herself because we are our mothers, y'all. We're the parts of them that maybe they don't want to see. Even if you are the positive part of your mother, she may not like that. And it's not that she doesn't like it. It might be hard for her to digest that you're a responsible mother, you're a loving mother, you're a capable woman, you're the woman that she's not, you're the mirror of who she's not. That causes conflict too with the mother wound. And so there's, you feel that tension and you feel that she won't celebrate you and you feel that she's negative towards you. And what she's negative towards is that she feels that you're condemning her by being healthy. Your health is an indictment against her sickness, and she's embarrassed and she's ashamed. So now she has to play the one-up game with you. Now she has to be better than you. Now she has to put you down. Now she's in competition with you because your light is shining so brightly. Or if you're struggling, if you've made mistakes, maybe you're over-identifying with her weaknesses and she can't handle it. She can't handle your weaknesses because your weaknesses are her weaknesses, and you're reminding her of the mistakes that she made. And so instead of just being angry at herself, now she's angry at you because she sees herself in you. So those are some of the dynamics of why you might feel like in the mother wound and the mother, relationship, why there's so much tension and there's so much strife. Yeah, there is jealousy and envy. And a lot of it comes from just, deep down that you feel inferior to your daughter, and you shouldn't, because it's shameful. It's sad. It makes you feel, that you've missed the mark and that you're incapable. It speaks to all of your wounds as a mother when you're in competition with your children and you can't celebrate their achievement, or your daughter, and you can't celebrate that she's gone further than you. That's a deficit because you feel like she knows your secret, that you have deficits. And so that makes you uncomfortable. So you become resistant, unsupportive, negative. You find something to criticize because you want to bring her down a notch or two. So in that case, mothers or women, daughters, you can only take care of yourself and let your mom heal her wounds, so that you won't continuously be experiencing the mother wound of envy and jealousy and resentment just because you made it. Or even if you're struggling as a woman and you need your mom's support, but she's pressing you down, she is responding to her weaknesses. She never got support for her weaknesses, so she can't give you support. And she's watching you relive her mistakes. And so she hates that for herself, and she hates that for you. So let's talk about the interventions here. Grief is an intervention. Grief as a healing intervention. Grief is a necessary and powerful process in emotional healing. It allows us to acknowledge, feel, and release the pain of unmet needs, lost dreams, and emotional wounds, especially those tied to early caregivers' relationships like the mother. Grief is not bad. I know we don't have sometimes the emotional capacity for it, but it is the pathway to healing. Grieving is the pathway to healing. It is on the road to healing, because after you acknowledge how you're feeling, then you can fix it and you can restructure and you can reroute. And there are 6 stages of grief that I want to talk about briefly. Denial, the first stage, bargaining, depression, acceptance, and reintegration, which is acceptance of your life, like reintegrating or rebuilding your life. They've added other stages, but I'm going to stick with the basic. And the first stage, what stops you from grieving all of this, it's because it's complex grief. Now, if your mother has passed away, this is different. You can still have these stages, but it looks a little different. I would say it's more difficult when they're alive, and they call that complex grief. It's like being able to see the water, but not being able to get a cup of water. Like seeing the food, but not being able to get a plate. So this person is alive, but your needs are not getting met. So it's even more frustrating. It's like, you're alive, meet my needs. They're alive, but you have to remember there's portions of their capacity and their abilities that are not there. They may develop, but the truth is, they may not ever be the mom you want them to be. I can remember I wanted a big, chunky mom. My mom's skinny. I love her to pieces, but I wanted a chunky mom. I don't know. Maybe I wanted hugs, or we just have all these fantasies of what we wanted. And I can remember wanting that, a mom who cooks, and a mom who, I just wanted to cuddle and cook, cuddle and eat. And so, but I appreciate who my mom is. So let's go there. First, stage 1, denial. Stages of grief. In this stage, it is your brain is telling you, I don't have the capacity to accept that this is who my mother is or who my mother was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up scenarios. I'm going to make up scenarios that maybe it's me, or maybe if it's that she has a drug addiction. I mean, you could really add some dialogue to it, because this is the reasoning, or this is the denial of accepting that your mother is who your mother is. So you're denying that you have this wound. And so then you launch from that is the denial that maybe I'm just depressed, or maybe I'm just anxious, or maybe I'm selfish, or maybe I just want too much, or maybe I'm just too sensitive. So all of these maybes are denying the reality that you have a mother wound. You're so respectful of the hope that you can't even conceptualize the fact that my mother hurt me, or you can't conceptualize the fact that because you want to say, I don't care, I'm grown now, or I don't care, I'm gonna do me. You make up all these things, so you resist the truth. You deny what you're feeling. And then there's the bargaining, where you continue to make agreement that, okay, my mom, if I do this, if I buy her this car, if I take her on this vacation, if I throw her a birthday party, if I answer her calls, if I listen to her, if I do all these things, then I won't have this wound. I'll be healed. Maybe if we go on this vacation together, maybe if we do this daughter and mother thing at church, or maybe whatever, you just kind of bargain, and you think that maybe if this happens, I'll get the love. Maybe if I, get this degree, then she'll see I'm worthy. And then the wound and the pain will stop. Maybe she'll see her grandkids and she'll love her grandkids. And then she'll see that I made the grandkids. And then maybe the wound will stop and she'll love me and she'll accept me. And then the pain will go away. That'll stop the pain. She'll be happy for me. I got a man, I'm getting married. She'll be happy for me. And the pain will stop. I got a career. I graduated. Maybe this will stop the pain of the mother wound. No, that's just bargaining. Delaying time because you can't accept the reality of who your mom is. What kind of then begins to happen is that you start to identify that you just have the wound and you don't have the mom that you wanted. So you start to feel the loss. You start to feel sad. And you may even start to feel like it's me. I'm not good enough. And I'm not deserving, because by now, as an adult, other people have stepped in your life. Other men have walked out. Other people have confirmed that maybe it is you. Maybe you're not lovable. So now you think it's the relationship, the guy who walked away, but deep seated is the fact that your mom never affirmed that you're worthy and that you're worthy to be loved and connected to. So every other injury just provokes that pain. It triggers that pain. And so what happens after that loss and that hopelessness? I'm never going to be loved. I'm never going to have a relationship with my mom. And the sadness that people feel, sometimes they attribute it to, I lost my job. And they don't even know that at the root of it is a deep hurt that you lost your relationship, the one that God designed with your mother. She's not connected to you. She doesn't give you the support and love that you need. So then what happens for some people who allow it is anger, irritability. And anger is beautiful. You know, we talk about the angry Black woman and how we're stereotyped. We have a lot to be angry about. The Bible says be angry and sin not. So anger is not bad. It's how we act when we're angry. Because angry is just an acknowledgement of unfairness, and you are protesting what is not right. So anger is your advocate. It is your witness that what is going on the inside and on the outside, it ain't right. So you need anger to show up, because anger is the umpire of justice. So you need it to show up so that it tells you this ain't right. This ain't right. And so after you allow yourself to feel it, then you go into, and I kind of think that the anger and depression, they kind of go like they go out. It's not linear. You can just go back and forth. All of these, you go up and down, back and forth. But I really feel like depression and anger they go back and forth with that. And at the same time, you can have it. And then there's acceptance. When you get to this point, it's like, it's reality acceptance. It is what it is. I can't control this. This is who she is. This is my life. This is the life that God gave me. And again, it still may be hints of depression and anger, but you're moving towards accepting that this is my reality. This is who brought me to earth. This is what I did get. This is who God chose to bring me to earth via, for whatever reason. This is part of my process. And then you're able to make peace with the path that you have been journeying. And when you do that, you acknowledge your grief. And at this point, even at any point, you can get therapy, self-help, but you get to decide that, okay, what's next? This is my situation. I could go against the grain and fight it, but fighting it is not going to change it. I'm not going to keep fighting to get my mother to love me properly. I'm not going to keep fighting that I'm a bad person and maybe my mother's no longer here and it was because of me. I'm not doing that. I'm ready to accept reality for what it is, and I want my life. I don't want to spend my whole life entangled with this mother wound dyad. It's affecting every part of me. It's affecting how I see myself. It's affecting how I connect to myself. It's affecting how I connect to other people. It is impairing to the next generation. It is impairing our legacy. It is impairing my spirituality, because I don't really like the sisters at church because I don't trust them. I don't have the capacity to deal with women because the first woman I ever was connected to abandoned or neglected me or left me or stayed and abused me physically, sexually, whatever. Yeah, mothers sexually abused. I have had clients, female at that, who were sexually abused by their mother. So there's so much pain, but you get to decide enough is enough. That's the gift of birthdays. God allows us to grow up so that we can take our lives into our own hand. So in that process, you're ready to reintegrate and ask yourself, how can I move forward? What do I have left? How can I celebrate what's left? How can I parent on purpose? How can I undo retroactive healing? How can I go back and heal my little girl? Because she's still there. No, my mom didn't give me what I needed, but I can give me what I need. I can go to therapy. I can get a new voice in my head that loves and supports me. I could reiterate that God says I'm valuable. And I have scriptures. We'll go over our devotion for that before we end our session here. But I get to do the work. I get to take my life into my own hands. I don't have to be the vulnerable child who's waiting for the rescue. I am the rescue. By the grace of God, I get to be the rescue. I get to hear what God says about me, and I get to accept it, and I get to treat myself accordingly so everyone around me will get notice that I am who God said I am, and I deserve love, respect, and I'm valuable, right? And so in that grieving, you are grieving the connection, the mother you never had. You might even have to write it down. I'm grieving the mother I never have. I'm grieving the lost connection, the safety, the consistency. I'm grieving the fantasy mommy, my big mommy, and all the other things. The fantasy of a nurturing or emotionally available mom. I missed moments of support. She didn't show up at my baby shower. She didn't show up at my graduation, my 6th grade graduation. She didn't show up parent night. She didn't show up at my wedding. She didn't show up, when I was sick in the hospital. She didn't show up. She didn't show up because it had to be in her to show up. It wasn't in her to show up. She wasn't showing up in life that way. So of course, if her character wasn't showing up in life that way, she cannot show up for you that way. It's not who she is. She doesn't have those characteristics. She has that deficit. She loves you from that deficit. So she couldn't show up. She didn't have the show up in her. Even if she was angry and you feel like she showed up for my sister, she's still in deficit because a healthy mother loves all her children. So that's still a deficit. We get to see our parents' deficit and not make it about us. It's more about our mothers than it is about us. So you grieve that. You write down, I miss that. I miss the celebrations. I'm hurt. I wanted her here. And you give that to the Lord because you can't change it. And you trying to force her, she can't go back in time either. She can't repay you for the time lost. But you get to move forward. You get to ask God for the strength to move forward. You get to journal your feelings. Write a letter. You don't even have to send it. If she's deceased or alive, just write it. Talk with a therapist, a pastor, a safe friend. Cry about it. Pray about it. Listen to music, art. Do something that helps you to move through it. What happens in grief is that people get stuck in their pain. But if you do the things that I'm telling you, you get to move through it. And yes, you're going to carry your grief because there's a part in your heart that God intended for your mother to occupy appropriately. But He will give you strength. He will pick you up if you're willing to move forward with your pain and move you forward. You get to move forward with your pain. You don't have to be stuck in your childhood wound. You get to be a woman. You get to be a healed woman. You get to create, timelines. You get to create things that you're proud of. You get to speak out loud the things that you're releasing to God. There's an exercise that I do for everybody in my life because it's right. It helps me to understand what I'm dealing with. If I know what I'm dealing with, then I understand my expectations. I'm sorry, y'all, family included. I have a list. On that list is everybody's name, and it's what I want from you, but then it is also what I know you're going to give me based on patterns of interaction and my ability to assess your characteristics. And I accept it. I grieve what I wanted, but I'm not over you. I don't get to dictate who you are in my life. I'm not in a silo or in an echo chamber of a relationship. How you show up for me is how you show up. And I have to be mature enough to deal with it, to pray through it, to set boundaries, to protect myself, and to set appropriate expectations so that I'm not constantly re-injuring myself with false expectations or unrealistic expectations. But I need to know that it is okay to grieve. We need to give ourselves permission to cry, to journal, to go to therapy, to move, to process it, to change the way our brain is perceiving our experience. We can't go back in time, but we can reshape it by the narrative, which allows us to have a different experience. So it changes. We change our past in real time. We can't go back and undo it, but we can narrate it and we can process it differently. The scripture encourages us, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. God welcomes your grief and he promises comfort, not in the absence of pain, but in his faithful presence through it. He never told us that we would be without pain. Eve, our first mother, was a whole wreck. Because of her, we experience the mother wound. She created the first mother wound. But in the midst of that, God promises to be there and help us through this life so that we can endure the pain that we experience with a mother who beat us, a mother who molested us, a mother who abandoned us, a mother on drugs, a mother who was spiteful and angry and jealous and hurtful and stole or whatever, lied, whatever, slept with my husband, whatever you have. God can help you to deal with that mother wound and that mother pain. It's about forgiveness. I'm going to talk really quickly about that. Forgiveness is going to be a part of your grieving because you have to let go of. But when I want you to think about when you think about forgiveness is you're no longer trying to make someone pay for what they did, because God says, vengeance is mine, I will repay. What they did to you, what they didn't give to you, your response is to set a boundary to keep you safe so they don't do it again, to give it to God and let God work out the details. But forgiveness means I'm letting go of my expectations and I'm accepting who you are. I'm accepting who you are. I'm accepting this is all I got, and then I can learn what to do with it. It's not saying I forget it. I remember it. That's what makes forgiveness powerful. I remember that you abandoned me, but I also remember that I can give you basic grace. You got me here. You're a woman in struggle. You have your own challenges. So I'm not going to hold you captive to the pain that you've inflicted on me. I'm going to let you go so that I can let the pain go. Yeah, it's not going to be fresh because as long as I'm holding you in that prison, I'm in there with you. But if I can let you go, let my expectations go, and let God handle the pain of what happened, that is forgiveness. Letting God take care of the pain and heal you from the pain, and letting go of the expectations and the anger because I don't get what I want and even what I need. It doesn't excuse the abuse or the toxic behavior. It doesn't deny or minimize your pain. It only says, I no longer choose to be entangled in this pain in this way. I'm giving it to God. And I no longer choose to expect you to fix it and pay me back because I'm going to be mad every day. I'm going to be angry every day. But I'm releasing, with the help of the Lord, the anger. I know it's unfair, but I'm accepting it for what it is. Doesn't mean we're going to be in a relationship. Sometimes they're deceased, and sometimes they're so dangerous that you have to pray and love them from a distance. Forgiveness is releasing the emotional grip of the offense, choosing your peace over prolonged pain, a decision that creates space for healing and joy. Instead of the anger and instead of the bitterness, I'm creating space for joy and peace, for God to give me joy and peace. We want God to heal us, but we won't forgive. Forgiveness makes space for God to heal. And forgiveness, again, it is not forgetting, but it's saying, here, God, I need you to do what's right with this. You know who they are and why they did it. And now I'm giving it to you. I'm choosing it. I don't feel like it, but I'm choosing to give it to you. And now I have a space that's open for you to bring joy and peace and healing for me. But as long as I have it in the center, there's no room for God to heal. Acknowledge the pain. Here's how you practice forgiveness. Acknowledge the pain. We've already talked about what forgiveness is not. It's not accepting or excusing the behavior. What forgiveness is, it's releasing the emotional grip and making space. How to practice forgiveness, acknowledge the pain and name it truthfully. You have to tell the truth. And this is hard because it's that thing where, you feel like I'm disrespectful if I say what my mom did, or I don't want to embarrass. No, this is between you and God. Acknowledge the pain and name it truthfully. She didn't show up for me. She made me feel like I wasn't good enough. She hurt me, she beat me, she made me feel so worthless. She made me feel like I had to beg for love. She made me feel unlovable. Whatever your truth is, write it down, name it, write a letter. You don't need to send it, but express how it made you feel. You need to hear yourself feeling. You need to give yourself audience to feel. Use a visualization to release the wound, even if it's a cord cutting, a second cord cutting. We don't talk about that. The first cord was the umbilical cord. The second is pain that you're cutting and you're releasing it to God. And her wound is no longer infecting you, because so it is with a child and a mother. If they don't cut that wound, cut that umbilical cord, the child will be poisoned and will die. So you have to cut the wound, cut it, release it to God. Cutting it is releasing it to God, and no longer as a child trying to fix and to mitigate and be the lawgiver of what's not fair and the fixer of it. Engage in prayer and scripture or faith-based guidance to support your journey. Spiritual encouragement. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as God has forgiven you. Forgiveness doesn't ignore injustice. It honors your healing. You forgive because you deserve your freedom, not because of just for them, but it's for both of you. They need to be able to be free to move around the earth, and they need God to deal with them. So when you say forgiveness, you're asking God and releasing God to fix them. And he can fix them better than you can. Your attitude, your people pleasing. You can't fix your mother, but God can. Release him and her actions to him. He saw them, and he is going to use that to make you the woman you are today. There is so much gratitude attached to that. He promised to be there. Psalms 27, he promised to fill the gap. Though my mother and father forsake me, I will receive you and take you up. You're not alone. You have God's help. And because you have God's help, you get to celebrate. You get to participate in gratitude. I know I've given a lot this month, I should say, but gratitude will get you out of the darkest night. Start to find things that you're grateful for. You are a better person as a result of your pain. You do have pain, but if you look at it, you can turn that pain into promotion and to promise. There's still purpose, and you can take that pain and now you can commit to being a mentor, a better mother, or just someone who teaches about how to get through a mother wound, or just someone who becomes a light in the earth. You are a survivor, and God has a purpose for your pain. It wasn't for naught. And sometimes just by you being who God wants you to be, you can be a light to other mothers who are missing the mark, other women who are missing the mark. We need to heal each other, you all. We need to come together and not blame each other and not place more burdens on each other, but understand that we're all healing from something. We need to be grateful. Gratitude breaks up depression. I thank God for my mother. She's my champion. She's a little woman. She's not the big mama that I wanted, but she has endured so much emotional suffering, and she's done it with so much class and so much spirituality. And the way she loves me, I just appreciate that she had any love to give. If our mother sat us down and told us their true story, we'd understand. And even if they don't give it to us, we know that life is hard. We know what we're experiencing. So we get to grace them, and we need to be grateful for whatever we get. If it is just my mom makes tacos. My mom makes a cake, or my mom makes me laugh, or my mom, she's silly, or my mom's cute, or my mom carries herself well. Find the kernel of gratitude. And the Bible says, in everything, give thanks. This will mitigate the pain. God's going to walk you through the recovery of your mother wound, but you have to give him something to work with. You have to grieve it. You have to be able to forgive it. And then you have to be able to have some gratitude. May God bless you. May you become everything that God died for you to be. God bless you.